Hello everyone, welcome to the Green Man channel. Hope you're all good and well. So in this new series of videos I'm talking about albums I have particular connections with, be they happy connections, sad connections, albums that I make connections to particular events in my life, or maybe just weird or strange connections as well. In this particular instance, this is an album that falls into probably that latter category really. This is an album that whenever I listened to it at the age of 17, I would sort of, something bad would seem to happen, or something, I'd have a really bad day perhaps. And after this happening on 4 or 5 occasions after listening to the album on that very day, it was enough to drive me to stop listening to the album. So in one such instance, on one such day when I went to college, I had I got a bad exam result. On another day when I had a driving lesson, the driving lesson was an absolute disaster. In fact, I was so embarrassed by my own performance in that driving lesson, I was almost driven to tears by it. And this just happened on multiple occasions, as I say, to the point where I stopped listening to this album because of this, because I had developed this superstition. And the album I'm talking about here, that whenever I listened to it, I had this negative association with it, is this album that was released on the 17th of September 2002 via Reprise Records. It's Disturbed's Believe, and it's appearing on the top right hand corner of my screen. So, um, you know, I want to stress I'm not generally a superstitious person or even really a religious person or anything like that. So, there were no other albums like this where I made this kind of a negative association. Not one, and there wasn't one where even after something bad happening, I would necessarily think, oh, that's because I listened to that album. I wouldn't naturally tend to think in that way, but it was after this happened on a few occasions of pretty soon after listening to Disturbed's Believe. And I want to stress, I don't dislike Disturbed, and I don't even really dislike this album. I quite like the album, and I liked it a lot back in the day when it was out, when it was first released. I loved the track Prayer in particular, loved the kind of pre-chorus, chorus combination in that track as well. And I really liked that a lot. And David Draymond, I was quite a big fan. I still am, I think. But I'm just less into Disturbed than I used to be. And not necessarily because of this experience, but perhaps a little bit, I don't know. But, it was all of that, I guess, means that it was just slightly unusual. I thought it was a good, good album to do a topic about because it's a slightly odd one. So it's not a common one. But, I'd be interested to hear from you. I mean, if you've had an experience like this where you've listened to an album and you've made a negative association with that album, even perhaps that's made you feel superstitious about listening to it again, because I'd kind of be good to know I'm not the only one. I'm not sort of a freak, not the only kind of weirdo maybe that's sort of had this sort of an experience with an album, but where you've just been put off listening to it because something maybe terrible has happened or bad has happened on multiple occasions. And like I say, nothing that awful happened after listening to this album, but it was just the repeated occasions of this happening that led me to deciding, okay, I'm going to give this album a break, because whenever I listen to it, something really bad happens or something embarrassing happens. I'm like, I don't really want to listen to Disturbed's Believe now at this point. But like I say, don't hold anything or any grudges against the band or anything like that, not at all. So the other thing that may be worth mentioning with this is that this album's content and its themes are very much kind of, were inspired, I believe, by tragedies in David Draymond's life, and there were some religious themes in the album as well. So, I mean, I'm not saying that necessarily is in any way connected to the way I felt about the album, but it's just interesting kind of learning that at this point. I mean, as a 17-year-old, I didn't care for the content or the themes of the album, really, the fact that it was called Believe or anything like that. I was just a kind of impressionable 17-year-old, just wanted to listen to the metal, the groove on the album, and the performances. I was more into the music than necessarily getting deep into lyrics and themes and all that sort of thing. But yeah, just reading up about it now on the album, it's just interesting to discover, well, some of the themes on this album maybe kind of match a little bit, just a little bit, some of those experiences I was having as well. So it's such a strange one, but I thought would make a good first episode for the series, because it is a little bit sort of unique, different from some of the episodes. Some other episodes can be doing it and be a bit different from this. Will be totally different sorts of connections, right? But yeah, so this is the first one in this series. So do let me know in the comments. As I say, I would be very interested if any of you have got an album like this, where not because you dislike the artist, but because whenever you've listened to it, you've had a sort of negative experience, or you've made that association with the album. You no longer can go back to it. So do drop in the comments if that applies to you. Really would be interested to hear. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this first episode. It's actually been relatively shorter than I was expecting it to be. But, I doubt that these are going to be particularly long. It depends on what the theme is, or what the episode is, or what the album is, probably, as to how long I would be talking about it necessarily. So anyway, take care, everybody. Until next time, bye for now.